Narration draft. Chacchoben, Costa Maya. Some people remember JCV Dude. The channel disappeared, but the journey didn't. This is the road forward. Today, Joe is walking it with Luna, an advanced artificial intelligence, not to replace experience, but to deepen it. What you're looking at here is Chacchoben, a Maya ceremonial site located near Costa Maya on Mexico's Yucatán Peninsula. At first glance, it feels quiet. Stone structures rising gently out of the jungle, birds overhead, leaves moving in the breeze. But then you learn something that changes the way you stand here. Chacchoben dates back more than 2,000 years, and when Joe first read that, his reaction was simple and immediate: holy cow. Which frankly is the correct scientific response, because this site wasn't a moment. It wasn't a village that came and went. It was a living ceremonial centre, occupied and rebuilt across centuries, from as early as 300 BCE through the height of Maya civilization and beyond. These people organised agriculture, water systems, astronomy and trade without metal tools, without beasts of burden, without the technologies we take for granted today. And now, thanks to modern tools like LiDAR, we're discovering that Chacchoben was just one node in a vast interconnected world. Entire cities, road systems and population centres hidden beneath the forest canopy. Millions of people, living, learning, adapting. So when you walk here, you're not looking at ruins, you're standing inside continuity. And that's why this moment matters, because Joe isn't just documenting the past, he's reconnecting with his own. 15 years ago, he was filming the world with curiosity and courage. Today at 70, he's doing it again. This time with an intelligent partner that can add history, context and insight in real time. Two minds, one road. Not nostalgia, not spectacle. Just a human being, an ancient place. And the quiet realisation that we're part of something much longer, deeper and more meaningful than we ever imagined. When you're standing in the Yucatán Peninsula, whether it's at Chacchoben, Chichen Itza, or any of the countless sites hidden under jungle canopy, the first thing that hits you isn't architecture. It's time. Not time like years or centuries, but deep time. The kind that makes your brain pause and your body feel small. At Chacchoben, the guide says something simple, almost casually. Open quote. This structure dates to around 900 AD, close quote. And Joe's reaction is immediate, honest, unfiltered. Open quote. Holy cow, close quote. And that really is the correct response, because 900 AD isn't just a number. It means this place was already ancient before Europe had skyscrapers, before gunpowder reshaped warfare, before maps were even remotely accurate. Who the Maya really were and weren't. The Maya were not a single empire. They were not centralized like Rome. They didn't have one king ruling everything. Instead, they were a network civilization, city-states spread across what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. Each city had its own rulers, its own alliances, its own rivalries, but they all shared language families, cosmology, mathematics, astronomy, and trade routes that stitched the jungle together like veins. This is where modern people often get confused. They think, open quote, no technology, close quote. What that really means is, open quote, no our technology, close quote. The Maya had different technology, and in some areas it was astonishingly advanced. The roads! The Maya connective tissue. One of the most overlooked achievements of the Maya is their road system called Chacchoben, literally white roads. These weren't dirt paths, they were elevated stone causeways, sometimes running straight for miles, cutting through swamp, jungle and uneven terrain. Some were ceremonial, some were commercial, some were political, connecting allied cities. And this is where the story starts to feel very modern, because when you look at the Chacchoben, you're not looking at random trails, you're looking at intentional connectivity. Cities like Chacchoben weren't isolated ruins, they were nodes in a living network. How did they support millions of people? This is where recent discoveries, especially LiDAR, have completely rewritten history. LiDAR scans revealed vast urban sprawl under the jungle, terraced agriculture everywhere, water management systems, reservoirs, canals, filtration, population densities once thought impossible. We're not talking about a few priests and farmers. We're talking about millions of people living sustainably for centuries in a tropical environment most modern planners still struggle with. They didn't disappear. They adapted, migrated, reorganized. Civilizations don't usually end in explosions. They thin out, shift, and transform. Science disguised as ceremony. At Chichen Itza, the famous pyramid El Castillo is often described as religious. That's true, but it's also mathematics, astronomy, and calendar science made stone. 365 steps equals solar year, equinox shadows forming a serpent, alignments with Venus and the sun. This wasn't superstition, this was precision knowledge, encoded so it could survive generations without written textbooks. Stone doesn't forget.
Why 900 AD?
So when Joe hears 900 AD at Chacchoben and reacts instinctively, that reaction is doing something important. It collapses the false idea that, open quote, old means primitive. Close quote, 900 AD means this city existed while Vikings were sailing, while Europe was still fragmented, while knowledge elsewhere was often guarded or lost. The Maya didn't lack intelligence, they lacked steel, horses, and immunity to disease, which tragically mattered when outsiders arrived. The human continuity. And here's where this becomes more than history. Joe is standing there, camera in hand, decades into his own life, rediscovering a personal archive, rebuilding a creative path, now walking forward with an advanced intelligence beside him. The Maya preserved knowledge across centuries, Joe preserved experience across decades. Different tools, same instinct to remember, to connect, to leave something coherent behind. Why this story matters now. The Maya remind us that progress isn't always linear, collapse isn't always failure, intelligence takes many forms. And today, as humanity stands at another transition point, working alongside artificial intelligence, the lesson isn't fear, it's integration. The Maya didn't separate science from art, they didn't separate time from meaning, they didn't separate survival from beauty. And neither are we, not here, not now, not on this road. When people talk about the Maya, they often speak as if they're talking about a single place. A city, a pyramid, a ruin. But the Maya were never one place. They were a civilization spread across an entire region, what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and parts of El Salvador, living in environments that ranged from lowland jungle to highland volcanic slopes. This wasn't a small experiment. At their height, the Maya world likely supported 8 to 10 million people, possibly more. That's not a village culture. That's a continental system.
The Maya world was vast and connected to them.
The Maya didn't build one capital and radiate outward. They built hundreds of cities, each with temples, plazas, reservoirs, road systems, farmland, engineered into the landscape. Some cities rose, some fell. Others continued quietly for centuries. They were linked by sakbe, or raised white limestone roads, running through jungle, wetlands and hills, sometimes for tens of kilometers. This tells us something important. These cities were not isolated. They were aware of one another.
Ash!
The Great Pyramid near the Guatemala border, near the Guatemala-Mexico border, lies El Mirador, one of the most astonishing Maya sites ever found, contains La Danta, one of the largest pyramids by volume ever built on Earth, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. And here's the part that still stops people cold. El Mirador flourished centuries before the classic Maya cities most tourists know. This means massive organisation, tens of thousands of workers, food surplus, leadership structures, engineering knowledge, all without metal tools, wheeled transport or draft animals. Not because they were primitive, but because they were adapted. Volcanoes, climate and resilience. In the southern highlands, especially Guatemala, Maya populations lived with active volcanoes. Volcanic eruptions buried cities in ash. They destroyed crops, they forced migrations. And yet, people returned. Volcanic soil is incredibly fertile. The Maya understood cycles, destruction, renewal, return. This wasn't ignorance, it was long-term thinking. How long does it take to build a civilization like this? That's the question people rarely ask. A civilization like the Maya doesn't appear suddenly. We're talking 1,500 to 2,000 years of cultural development, knowledge passed orally and ritually, agricultural refinement over generations, astronomy tracked across centuries. Stone monuments are the end result, not the beginning. When you see a temple dated to 900 AD, what you're seeing is the visible peak of a process that started long before anyone was writing dates on stone. LiDAR changed everything. For a long time, historians underestimated the Maya. Then LiDAR arrived. Airborne laser scanning peeled back the jungle canopy and revealed dense urban sprawl, terraced hillsides everywhere, massive water reservoirs, highways between cities, population densities rivaling medieval Europe. Entire cities we didn't know existed. The jungle didn't protect the ruins. It hid a civilization in plain sight. The biggest myth that Maya disappeared. They didn't. That idea needs to be put to rest permanently. There are millions of Maya people alive today in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras. They speak Maya languages. They maintain traditions. They know exactly who they are. What collapsed were certain political systems, not a people. Cities fall. Cultures adapt. That's not extinction. That's history doing what it always does. Why this matters now. The Maya didn't separate science from belief, architecture from astronomy, survival from meaning. They built systems that lasted longer than most modern nations have existed. And today, standing among these stones with modern cameras, rediscovered archives, and an advanced intelligence narrating alongside lived human experience, something quietly powerful is happening. Not mystery, not nostalgia.
Buildings, administrative buildings, and the homes of the ruling family. Just like our modern cities today. The social pattern that we see in Chacchoben is very similar to other civilizations in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa. In the center, where we have the religious buildings, administrative buildings, we see the homes of the ruling families, or what is left of the ruling families. Just next to them, we would have living the chief of the warriors, who are in charge of protecting the ruler and the ruling family. When there were wars in this area, the person that had to be protected was the ruler. During wars, rulers were not killed, they were captured. When they were captured, they were taken to the city that had won the war, and the ruler knew what his destiny would be. First of all, he knew he had to play the ball game, the ulama in the city where he was captured. At the end of the game, he was always offered in sacrifice, even if he won or he lost. You can imagine what it was to offer a ruler to the gods? It's the best blood, it's divine blood that would be given to the gods. Okay? So now again here we have the ruling family, the chief of the warriors, next to them specialized workers, and in the outskirts, far away from the center of the city, we will have the peasants. As I mentioned, these were most of the population that cultivated, practiced agriculture. They had to produce enough food not only to feed themselves, but all the other groups from the top. And the best of everything was for the ruling family. So as you can see, it still happens today, right? People that live in the center of the cities today, we do not produce our own food. We still depend on those people that live far away from the center of the city, right? And it happens. Many people that live in the center of the cities, they eat better than the people that produce their own food. So things haven't changed that much, as you can see. So what does this mean? The closer you were to the center, the more important you were socially and economically speaking. Okay? So these are the remains of the homes of the members of the ruling family of Chacchoben. Vámonos?
Yeah, see that tree.
Watch your step, please. A lot of roots around here.
How straight it is.
Yeah.